The California coast at Big Sur is a waking dream, and it is here that the imagination of the Western mind reaches a kind of culmination of possibilities. Today we're going to meet Robert Moss. Robert is a pioneer in active dreaming, a synthesis of shamanism and modern dream work. Robert has said, "The big story is hunting for someone to tell it." And this is what Robert is teaching in a workshop here at Esalen on the Big Sur coast. He says, "Dreaming is waking up to sources of guidance, healing, and creativity beyond the reach of the everyday mind." I met with Robert here at the Big Yurt at Esalen with a long list of questions about dreams, coincidences, and the imagination.
Robert, thank you for inviting me here to Esalen to talk about the dream work that you're doing here.
Good to be dreaming with you here, Mel.
Okay, thank you. You've said dreaming gives us first-hand opportunities to explore the leading-edge theories of everything. What do you mean by that?
Well, let's take one example. Parallel universes are in. We've got Brian Greene's new book. We've got many worlds theory. We've got many scientific approaches to parallel universes. It seems that more physicists believe that we live right now in one of many, maybe infinite parallel universes than do not. How would we know about that in human experiential terms? How about this? You start recording your dreams, and you start noting the dreams in which you seem to find yourself again and again and again in a situation different from the present one. You're still with your former partner. You're still living in the former city. You're still in a different job. You're in a different reality altogether. Through dreaming, we might be able to track through the behavior of our dream cells what parallel universes are like on a human experiential level. I mean, that's one of many examples. You want to know about how quantum effects might work out on the human plane, how we might be actually plucking through the active observation one event track out of maybe infinite ones and the super possibilities. You start becoming more of a conscious dreamer and you'll find out how to do that.
I see.
I promise you.
Okay, I believe it, I believe it. Yeah, you've been at Esalen here for several days and you spent several nights here, presumably dreaming. You know, the most creative and controversial thinkers have gathered here at Esalen for decades. And you are a dreamer. Do you have any feeling for the great minds that have been here over the decades? Have you dreamed of them? Do you sense them?
Well, the very first night I spent at Esalen, I was sleeping in Michael Murphy's former bedroom, the founder of Esalen, and I saw Michael in his second body in the room, and I was startled till I remembered this room used to belong to him, whether it's his shade, whether it's a leftover from his former occupancy, or whether he's just wandering about back to his old premises in the night, I don't know. So I've had glimpses of that kind. What I notice more than, you know, the great minds thing is I notice that when we have a community of dreamers gathered together in a residential environment for a few days, we start creating a sort of web of dreaming without even thinking about it. We have overlapping dream experiences. We're dreaming into common themes. Mm-hmm. And in the morning when we sit at the breakfast table sharing our dreams, we will notice that there is common material, sometimes very closely paralleling material. See, one of the things that indigenous dreamers understand, and active dreamers understand too, is dreaming is social. It's not just individual. We get out there, we meet other people, we have interactions. And we notice that a lot when we're having a community dream group for several days.
Mm-hmm. What is the threat simulation theory?
Well, threat simulation theory, which was first developed by a Finnish psychologist, is that in every night, whether we remember it or not, our brain is rehearsing for challenges that lie ahead so that when they come up, we respond faster than we would do otherwise. I think that there's a lot of truth in this theory. I think it's better than that. I think it's more than that. I think we're not just rehearsing generically for a sort of generic kind of challenge. I think that we are shown in our dreams very specific situations that will come up which enable us to take very specific action to improve the likely scenario.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that people are experiencing, what can I call it, collective dreams? Perhaps dreams about a common crisis that may be looming in the future?
I think mass events throw a shadow ahead of them, so that ahead of something like a hurricane or a cyclone or an earthquake, a tsunami, 9/11, I think lots of people are dreaming things that later turn out to be previews, maybe non-specific previews of some collective catastrophe or hazard. I'd like to think that they're dreaming about benign or beneficent events that are happening on that scale too. But I notice it with the bad events. I noticed that before 9/11, hundreds of people whose dreams I had personal access to seemed to be previewing the events of 9/11. I noticed the same thing with the Asian tsunami. I noticed the same thing with other collective disasters. So, you know, we share a common situation on this planet. We're connected to the rest of humanity and we're connected to other life forms. It seems to be natural that we would dream of Earth changes and other events that will be part of our common future.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that people are dreaming collectively about what may be happening to the Earth?
I think the Earth, to sound very indigenous for a moment, I think the Earth is trying to speak to us. I've noticed that a lot of people in my ambit, as a teacher of dreaming, for example, are having dreams about the trees in which the trees seem to be crying out. I mean, the trees of the planet seem to be crying out for care, for attention, for respect. I mean, we've been killing the forests of this planet at an extraordinary rate. It's going on at brutal, breakneck pace in many parts of the world. I've noticed that some of my dreamers, I mean, I'm talking about hundreds of dreamers now, are dreaming of and with the trees in a way that seems to be saying, hey, we humans have to stand up and listen. We go on killing the trees, we'll end up destroying the ecosphere that makes us possible.
Right. Robert, I'd like to give due attention to your book, The Three Only Things, Tapping the Power of Dreams, Coincidence, and Imagination. I know you've come up with the title, The Three Only Things, because people denigrate dreams, coincidence, and imagination. But I'd like to ask you, what is coincidence? Why is it important?
Well, coincidence is where mind and matter meets. That's one way of looking at it. We have something on our mind, and then something rises up in the world around us which mirrors back at us that issue, or sometimes dramatizes it in a way which feels meaningful. I think that through meaningful coincidence, the deeper order of our lives reveals itself. It often feels personal. We struggle to describe it, but when coincidence is at work in ways that are meaningful to us, even if we find it hard to wrap our tongues around it, we feel as if there's a friendly hand patting us on the shoulder, or a hand alternatively pushing us back. It feels as if there are forces behind the obvious world that are in play, and I think it is by becoming more alert to the way this works that we'll find that we are being given homing beacons in our lives that really work, that can help get us to where we need to go.
Yeah, I think you said that coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous.
That's one way of looking at it.
Okay, how can we work with coincidence so that the best can come of it?
Pay attention. And the more you pay attention, the more you will notice and act upon it.
Can you give me an example?
Well, I'll give you a negative example. I mean, it's an example of coincidence I failed to act upon. It's the one that's coming to mind right now. Back just before the stock market crash in 1987, I'm traveling on a plane, and I have a new wallet that my brokerage house has given me, and I nearly lose it down the toilet on the plane. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, gosh, I nearly lost what represents my modest stock market investments, represents symbolically down the drain. Maybe I should sell my stocks and get out of the stock market. 2 weeks later, the stock market collapsed, and I noticed I had went down the toilet, and I noticed I had failed to take advantage of the message.
You make a distinction between coincidence and synchronicity?
Not really. I mean, Jung coined the word synchronicity as a classical scholar as well as a great psychologist, because he was fed up with people struggling to explain coincidence. Synchronicity isn't a great word, but it sounds respectable and scientific. It's really just a synonym for meaningful coincidence. The $10 word, or the 10 mark word, is isomorphy. That the quantum physicist Wolfgang Pauli wanted to call it isomorphy. It means identity or similarity of shape or form. So you've got, you know, a deer, an antlered deer in your mind, and then you see a decal with the antlered deer, and then a deer runs across the road, and then venison is being offered in the restaurant, that kind of thing. I'd rather like isomorphy. It's probably not going to travel well, though.
And what does isomorphy mean again?
It means similarity or identity of forms. The same form presents itself maybe in different media, maybe in different ways. So, you know, it shows up again and again and again.
I see. You've said that the biggest crisis in our lives is the crisis of imagination. What do you mean by that, the crisis of imagination?
Well, everything we do depends on what we can imagine and what we are willing to entertain or not entertain in our imagination. Everything we do is sparked by an idea or an image. If we think that we are inside a blank wall and can't get out, that there we will stay. But if you can imagine a door where none seems to be obvious, you can make your way forward. One of the things I train people to do is to practice the art of imagination, to grow their imagination, to grow it bigger and stronger, to realize that according to how we use our imagination, we can heal our bodies and our lives.
Can you give me and the audience watching an exercise by which we can strengthen our imagination in order to move out of the box that we've put ourselves in?
Well, I like to begin by giving people a place to see, a place of vision or a place of imagination. I mentioned the trees earlier. One thing I like to do is to ask people, stand with a tree or stand as if you are rooted in the ground like a tree and feel yourself rising between earth and sky like a tree, with the earth energy rising up through your trunk, and feel yourself breathing in light through your canopy. Feel yourself getting very close to this tree, and then make this tree a place where you can hang out in your imagination, and a place from which you can see in ways that are not obvious. For example, picture yourself up in the high branches of the tree, looking across space and time at something you would like to see. You'd like to see your way past a current problem, for example. Then picture yourself at a point of observation up in the high branches, looking across your present difficulties to a place where your problems have been resolved and everything has come out fine, and grow that part of the scene stronger and stronger and stronger, and then let it want to take root in your world. Beautiful. I mean, that would be an interesting way to approach this.
Exactly, yes. Getting back to dreaming, would you say that dreaming is a form of channeling?
Yes and no. I mean, we do get information. I mean, we do have visitors and sources that channel information through us in dreams. But what I teach is a very conscious or active approach. I was a bit cautious about the word lucid dreaming for a long time. I'm less cautious now. Some of my friends are talking more sensibly about lucid dreaming than people used to. This is a lucid approach. This is an active approach. I'm not a passive trance medium. I like to co-create with sources of knowledge beyond my ordinary mind, but I don't do that in the mode of the passive trance channel. That might be a very useful person, but that's not the way I do it. When I approach dreaming, I approach it consciously. I mean, I like to go consciously into the dream world. I mean, I will go from that twilight zone between sleep and waking consciously into the dream world at night, and I'll bring back gifts that way. So yes, I'm open to receiving information and even channeling information from sources beyond myself, but I think that would be a limited way of looking at dreaming.
Right. I asked the question whether dreaming is a form of channeling because when I write down my dreams, my writing is much more fluid. I mean, it just goes, and often I don't know what I'm going to write next. And normally when I write, I have to really concentrate what I'm going to say next. So when I said that, it's as if a more fluid energy has gripped me and acts on the imagination in a way that is more dynamic than I normally experience.
Well, that could be called channeling. It could also be called getting into the zone in your own way, couldn't it? I mean, we all want to be in the zone. That's what the athletes call it. Whatever we're doing. I mean, writers want to be in the zone. We want to be in a state of conscious dreaming where things move more fluidly and easily than they do otherwise. And journaling, especially journaling dreams, is a great way of getting yourself through your writing hand into the zone. So I think of that as a way of accessing the zone, the place where we want to be.
I see. I understand there are big dreams and little dreams. What is it that makes the difference between a big dream and a little dream?
Well, content for one thing, modality for another. I mean, the Hawaiian language has a rich vocabulary for dreams, and I'm thinking that in Hawaiian, we can distinguish, for example, between a straight-up dream. A straight-up dream is not a shot of alcohol. It's a dream that gives you a clear picture of something that's going to happen. It requires no interpretation. It shows you something that's happening in the world. But on the other hand, there's what the Hawaiians call a wild goatfish dream. Goatfish is something they like to eat. But if you eat it the wrong way in the wrong season, it'll just make you crazy. So a wild goatfish dream is a trash dream you throw away because there's nothing in it to worry about. It might be influenced by your food intake or something else. I mean, our feelings basically will tell us the difference. But that doesn't mean that we should discard dreams because they seem mundane, boring, or blah. Dreams that seem mundane, boring, or blah are often the most likely to contain precognitive information or information on the future, because a lot of our working days can be mundane, boring, or blah. Right. So a dream that doesn't feel terribly exciting may nonetheless contain a clue to how to handle a mundane, everyday situation better. Your feelings are basically going to be your guide to whether you should spend time on a dream or not. I don't recommend that people should spend time on every dream. And dreams are not the same. Some are more important, some are more urgent than others. Feelings, feelings, feelings. If I'm going to talk about a dream, the first thing I want to know is the dreamer's first feelings on waking.
Right. Do men dream differently than women?
Well, there's a difference between boys and girls. I mean, one of the reasons we think they dream differently is that men, by and large, recall fewer dreams than women.
Why?
Maybe it's because men have been schooled not to show inner feelings, emotions, or reveal themselves to the extent that women do. Maybe that's it. I would say that men's dreams probably contain more violence, more physical violence, more weaponry, more hardware than women's dreams do. But it's not just gender differences worth noting. There are occupational differences, differences of temperament that are reflected. We've had a guy in my workshop. He's a brilliant man. He's a highly educated man and a great dreamer, but he also is the man who does the maintenance on the farm where he and his wife lives. And he's often dreaming of getting 1.5-inch nails to drive into the roof, etc. Right. Things that reflect his regular activities.
I understand that men actually start talking about their dreams when they dream about their fathers. Why would that be?
I've noticed that it's a watershed in the life of any guy when his father dies. It's a watershed in the life of a woman too, of course. But I've noticed that a lot of men, real guys who were not accustomed to talking about dreams, break open and start talking when they dream of their father at or around the time of his death. It's the moment of opening. I've noticed this again and again and again. I would say that the number one topic, the number one dream topic, brought to me by men telling dreams for the first time, has been a dream of the departed father. And it's sometimes shaken them in their soul, shaken them to their core. It's the moment of decisive opening.
Robert, in talking with you these past minutes, I've noticed that you are one of the most present people I've ever met, and your energy is consistent. How do you do this?
Well, thank you. I mean, I like that statement very much. Well, I do believe that the time is always now. And actually, my caveat would be the time is sometimes go. We sometimes got to move faster than just now.
Right.
The time is go. I try to be absolutely present to what I'm doing. I am absolutely committed to my work. My work is my life. It is my calling. It discovered me. I found it. It found me. And I do it. And it's what I love to do. And if I'm in the presence of a civilized, interesting interviewer, I'll sustain it through even in front of a camera.
Okay. Robert, our time is about up, but I recall at the beginning of the interview you said that you want to wake people up to the fact that the big story is looking for someone to tell it. So we're at the end of our interview now, and considering all that we have said and talked about, is there one last thing that you would like people to know?
All of this for me is about becoming a chooser. What do I mean? But realizing that at every moment we choose our life. We choose the attitude we bring to life and thereby choose our life. I want to help people become more conscious at every turning in life that they have the power to choose. At the very least, choose their attitude, choose the story they're living, and claim the power that lies in that.
I see. Okay, Robert, thank you so much for your thoughts on dreams, coincidences, and the imagination. I'm sure that the listeners have definitely benefited from this.
May your best dreams come true.
Thank you, Robert.